In today's video, 4,000 federal workers have been laid off by the Trump administration. Secondly, John Bolton is facing a federal indictment. It should be dropping any day now. And the president just sent a chilling warning to China. In all these stories, we're going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
We're about to enter a second weekend of the partial government shutdown. Senators have left town and concerns are growing about missed paychecks for federal employees. That is going to start. Senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram is on Capitol Hill tonight.
The rifts have begun. White House Budget Director Russ Vought making good on his vow to fire federal employees. Democrats seething.
We believe that they are not only unethical and immoral, but illegal for him to be riffing people during a shutdown. And so I don't believe in negotiating by threat.
Elfreth represents 44,000 federal employees. She says Maryland lost 15,000 federal workers since President Trump took office. Republicans are not surprised.
We're going to have to start making some decisions about how to move money around, which agencies and departments are going to be impacted.
Maine Republican Susan Collins opposes Vought's firings, declaring the move, quote, arbitrary. The union representing federal employees asked for a temporary restraining order. The president says these are the consequences for the shutdown.
We'll be cutting some very popular Democrat programs that aren't popular with Republicans.
Democrats say they're detecting shutdown anxiety from the GOP.
We have seen rhetorical movement from Republicans, but actions speak louder than words.
Well, that's Hakeem Jeffries there, and he's right. Actions do speak louder than words, which is why the action from the Democrats, it's really disgraceful if you think about it. Just have the fight about the ACA subsidies after the government is open. It's the sensible thing to do. It's the common sense thing to do, but they can't bring it to themselves. Not at this juncture, because remember, their whole purpose right now is to make the American people feel pain because they're banking on the fact that the American people might just blame President Trump. That's what they're hoping. That's what they're praying for. And of course, here is CNN reporting more on what Russ Vought did today with these layoffs. Take a listen.
Renee, do we know which federal agencies are getting hit with these layoffs right now?
Well, Jake, when that announcement was made via social media, there was no additional information as far as which agencies. So our entire team started making calls, and here's what we've been able to confirm at this point. We know that the Treasury Department, Department of Education, Health and Human Services, Department of Homeland Security, and HUD have all confirmed to CNN that there will be a reduction in force, these mass layoffs happening where they will be separating from federal employees. I will point out we don't have a number as far as scale at each of these agencies. Quite frankly, the labor union doesn't quite know just how many of these federal employees are getting these notices saying that they no longer have jobs at these agencies. We are hearing from that labor union. The president, Everett Kelly, he says to CNN in a statement that in the labor union's 93 years of existence under several presidential administrations, including during Trump's first term, no other president has ever decided to fire thousands of furloughed workers during a government shutdown.
Okay, here's that tweet from Russ Vought earlier today confirming that RIFs have begun. And this is a reduction in force. So here's the question for you right up front, okay? Because this is really the bottom line. Do you support the Trump administration slashing the federal workforce in half? That means they are laying off federal workers, not furlough, laying off. So a good amount of them may not come back. Now, I'll just tell you right now, as you answer that question in the comment section below, the Democrats have already gone to the courts, okay? So expect a TRO announcement coming shortly here, whether that's tonight or tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to happen. And I guess the question also is, do they have the authority to do so? Yes, they do. The Trump administration has the authority to lay off federal workers. It may not have been done before, but it's not illegal. Okay, let's hear more about the details about the numbers within each agency that is particularly being laid off based on this court filing. Take a listen.
Because I actually think what we just learned moments ago, which is not about the Air Force Base, but actually about these federal worker layoffs, is going to cause real strain on the relationship between the administration and a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill, because we've just learned in a court filing that more than 4,000 federal workers were laid off today. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like, it's about 315 workers at the Department of Commerce, 466 workers at the Department of Education, 187 at the Department of Energy. That list goes on and on. A couple of things to point out here. There were already reservations among Republicans as to how this shutdown was being handled. We've heard them speak out about it. The fact that the House has not been called into session. The fact that these workers' pay was being threatened. We heard President Trump saying some workers didn't deserve to get paid, and at one point saying they were going to look at the law differently, the law he signed in 2019, to say that they wouldn't have to pay those furloughed workers. But now you have a complete restructuring of the federal workforce. Of course, we know that the president has extended powers during a government shutdown, but it's really unprecedented to use them in this way to restructure the government essentially in your image.
Okay, here's another question for you. If you were the president, what would you do? Would you continue to support the attitude that it's on the Democrats to get the government back open? Republicans have offered a clean CR. So in the face of veterans who will not get paid on their next paycheck, in the face of air traffic controllers not going to receive their paychecks, what would you do? I guess it's going to be based on your principles, right? And that lies why politics have become so divisive. In the big picture of things, we shouldn't even be in this position, but it's President Trump. And Democrats hate him with every fiber of their being. And so they will tear down this earth if they have to, if that means President Trump will go down with them. And that's just a frightening way to govern our country. It really is, because innocent people get hurt in the process. And that's just how I see it. So why don't we hear one side of the story? Because, you know, we have both sides to show you. I'm going to start with Democrats. So they have one of these individuals on MSDNC claiming that they're not changing their stance. They are not going to let up. And each day that goes by, it's getting better for them. Take a listen.
All right, so today's a critical day. A lot of federal government workers got only a partial paycheck today. Military members got their last paycheck. That's the last one until the shutdown ends. You have Russ Vought, as we just put up on the television, saying the reduction in force has begun. So I guess they're saying that thousands of employees will now be laid off. Does this put pressure on Democrats to come back and try to end this shutdown?
You know, I don't think so, Katie. And the reason I say that, and, you know, let me acknowledge right up front that this shutdown is causing an awful lot of people an awful lot of pain. The day it began, I went up to the airport at Windsor Locks, Connecticut, to see off 500 Connecticut National Guardsmen who were deploying to the Middle East. These are not wealthy people, right? And they are not going to get paid on October 15th. So this is causing a huge amount of pain.
I think it's very important for me to at least bring this up. The Medicare annual enrollment period is now here. And you know what that means? There's plenty of seniors out there that are going to feel confused when it comes to picking the right plan that fits their needs. And guess what? These brokers out here are praying for that, because that means they're going to make more money and then give you a plan that doesn't work for you. It doesn't matter whether you're on Medicare or you're about to get on it. Wouldn't it make sense to speak to a trusted advisor? That's why I'm encouraging you to call Chapter today. In under 20 minutes, which is completely free, by the way, they'll show you every single plan out there, compare them with you, and then recommend the one that fits your situation. Get this. And I had to write this down because I don't want to miss this. Susie, who listens to my show, she wrote in to say that Chapter found her a new prescription plan that saves her $2,200 every single year. And yes, Chapter is also on record for saving seniors $1,100 per year just on Medicare costs alone. So bottom line is, do not gamble with your Medicare plans. Call Chapter today at 323-431-5200. Again, that number is 323-431-5200 to talk to a trusted advisor today. Listen, if there was not a clean CR, my opinion would be different, of course. But even CNN has acknowledged, out of all people, that this is a clean CR. They even argued with Nancy Pelosi about it, and a lot of Democrats out there. CBO acknowledged it. So why do Democrats want to commit political suicide? I have no idea. Now, on the screen, we were able to find the copy of the actual numbers that were included in the court filing. As you guys can see here, if we really dive into this. 315 at the Department of Commerce, 466 at Education, 187 at Energy, 1,100, I guess between approximately 1,100 and 1,200 at HHS, 442 at Housing Urban Development, 176 at Homeland Security, and 1,446 of the Department of Treasury. Now, my question is this: where is the IRS on this list? I mean, I think that's a good question, right? I'm just poking a little fun, but this actually takes us to another breaking news story here. Military personnel have showed up at a food bank, given the fact that they received their last paycheck during this government shutdown. It's an interesting story. Take a listen.
As I take a step aside here, there is quite a bit of military members and their families in line because of this government shutdown. We're in day 9 of it, and they're here for a food pantry. There's all sorts of food that is available, and I spoke with some military member spouses, and I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA on why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building. But lately it has been a lot. Like, we were here last week and we were in line for like 2 hours.
In a normal week, we usually run out of food about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Last week, we ran out of food about 10:30.
Okay, so the bottom line is the American people are starting to feel the pain of a government shutdown, and that's exactly what the Democrats want. Republicans and President Trump believes they're going to be able to get their way with this. They've done the right thing. Clean CR. Okay. No spin on it. No priorities from Republicans on it. Just continue the existing spending. And Democrats say, nope, we don't want to do that. We want to add our own sauce on it. And now we are where we are. So why don't you guys give me your forecast, your estimate? What do you think will play out over the next 7 days? Do you believe the Democrats will cave and get the government back open? Or do you think this is going to get worse? Let me know in the comment section below. Now let's go to our next update, and this is fun. So John Bolton, it's being reported by MSDNC, okay, out of all people, that he's on the verge of receiving a federal indictment. Take a listen.
Bolton, former national security advisor turned sharp critic of Donald Trump, is expected to be the subject of a complaint or even an indictment as early as next week. MSNBC, citing 2 sources, is reporting exclusively that the acting U.S. attorney in Maryland is moving forward quickly to seek criminal charges against Bolton. They reportedly relate to claims that he improperly kept classified national security information in his Maryland home. His home was searched in August. Bolton's lawyer insists that his client, John Bolton, did nothing improper. It is the second instance of targeting a prominent Trump critic.
You know what the interesting thing is about John Bolton and his situation? He's been looking at an indictment since the Biden administration. This isn't something that was manufactured under Trump. This is something that he was already facing. But obviously, MSDNC isn't really going to focus on that key detail. They're going to focus on the fact that he's been a Trump critic. Just because you're a Trump critic doesn't mean you don't deserve a federal indictment, okay? And if a jury of your peers can find that a federal indictment is warranted, then you got to make your case in court to defend yourself. It's exactly what the president had to do. And he wasn't successful, as you guys know, for obvious reasons. But I'm not feeling sorry for John Bolton. But hey, doesn't stop CNN from painting this picture to their audience that President Trump has weaponized the entire weight of the federal government against his political opponents. That's what they're saying. Take a listen.
Who's next here? Because there, of course, have been kind of lists out, and as Scott pointed out, the president freely talks about a lot of the people that he wants to go after. So here are some people that are under investigation right now. John Bolton, John Brennan, Lisa Cook, of course, Federal Reserve, Chris Krebs, Adam Schiff, Jack Smith, Miles Taylor. The public calls to investigate Reid Hoffman, Mark Milley, George Soros, Fani Willis, Chris Wray. This is quite an array of people. Scott Jennings, one person we've heard about is John Bolton, although it sounds like that investigation may have begun under the Biden administration.
Yeah, that started under Biden. And from what I read in the newspaper, they did find classified material, according to the reporting, in his house.
Yep, that's a very important detail from Scott Jennings there. And like I told you guys, MSDNC did not want to admit that this originated under the Biden administration. And you guys saw that graphic, how they try to say, yeah, the president's going after all these people. Listen, if they committed a crime, an investigation is warranted. I don't understand what the problem is. Now, when you think about President Trump, you clearly knew they went after him for malicious reasons, okay? It's just blatantly obvious. But one thing is for sure, I'm not convinced that any of these people will get convicted. And if they're convicted, I'm definitely not convinced they're going to serve any jail time. You let me know if you guys see it the same way. Now, according to MSDNC, if we circle back to them, here they are trying to minimize these charges and try to make their audience believe that there's really nothing here in regards to John Bolton. Take a listen.
There is what John Bolton's lawyer, Abby Lowell, has said in the past, which is that he has concluded that a lot of the records that are at issue or in dispute are ones that a longtime government official would have normally had in their home after serving in multiple presidencies. And I believe his lawyer pointed out at the time that these documents dated back to the George W. Bush presidency, so that they were pretty dated. I wish I could answer you more, I guess, definitively, but what we have thus far is that the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland is rather rapidly pursuing this case.
Well, that actually sounds familiar. When Letitia James and Fani Willis and Jack Smith rapidly pursued a case against Donald Trump, the 45th president at the time. So again, if they're looking for sympathy, they're not going to find it. Now, they can obviously scream into the echo chamber of their base and they'll get affirmation that what they're saying is true. But objectively speaking here, and just looking at everything that we've seen over the past decade, this is really par for the course, okay? This is normal business at this point. This is the new paradigm of our government, okay? They will continue to target each other because they've been doing it. To think they won't do it is really a blatant lie and being naive.
I don't know if you can put that one on the list exactly. Fani Willis has got, I mean, we could spend a whole hour discussing the ethical problems of Fani Willis. I mean, some of these people have real problems. And so to call them all vendettas, I'm not sure is accurate. But look, my view is there is a process here. In the case of Letitia James, in the case of Comey, really in the case of anybody, you wind up getting charged through a grand jury system. The grand jury looks at these things. They decide whether you should go to trial. Then you get your day in court. And that's what happened to Donald Trump here in New York. He got put through a process, and as Alyssa pointed out, the one that she pursued against him, the big judgment was vacated. So it looked like it was massive overreach in that particular case. At some juncture, we do have to have some trust in the process. These are ordinary citizens. These are our peers. These are just average Americans who get called into grand juries and juries to sort out what's right and wrong. And I still have some belief that that system has integrity.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that system and Letitia James, Zohran Mamdani came out today during his press conference to, throw his support behind James and claim that the president is destroying this country by going after her. Now, first, before I show you the clip, who is Letitia James to believe that what the president is doing is destroying our country? That's all nonsense, but that's what he wants people to believe, so hear it for yourself.
This is that we are making clear that this is not simply an attack on Attorney General Tish James. This is an attack on our city. And each one of us represents different parts of that same city, and we speak with one voice today. We speak with a voice that recognizes that we are standing in front of the same courthouse where Attorney General Tish James did her job, upholding the law and holding Donald Trump accountable. Trump versus New York was argued in this courthouse, and yet as it is so clear today, that fight continues outside of this courthouse as we speak. Because what Donald Trump has sought to do with taking over the federal government is to advance his own greed and his own agenda. And we are now watching as in the pursuit of that advancement, he lays waste to our democracy. This is a blatant miscarriage of justice. This is a shameless act of political retribution. And instead of prosecuting Tish James for doing her job, Donald Trump should be doing his.
Well, according to the 77 million people that voted for President Trump, they believe he is doing his job. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And that seems to be the hiccup for Democrats in their messaging is you cannot dispute the president is doing exactly what he told the American people he would do. You may disagree with the way he's going about it, but you can't argue he's not taking action and he's not doing what he said he was going to do. How many times do we have to say it? Now, what's interesting about Mr. Mondani here is while he's out there supporting Big Tish James, it just proves once again this man doesn't care about cracking down on crime because she doesn't either. But he chooses to endorse a woman like that who put all of her energy into going after a billionaire instead of focusing on the things that truly impact everyday New Yorkers. I mean, I think that's a legitimate criticism, but that's just me. Now, let's go to our next story here, and this is about the president putting up a message, or really a threat, to China because they have sent out a strong-worded letter, some people are calling it a threat as well, to multiple countries, talking about how they're going to raise tariffs on these countries, increase the export cost, and as a result, the president has announced that he is placing 100% tariffs on top of the existing tariffs when it comes to China. Take a listen.
So what happened? I mean, you've met with the Chinese. Treasury Secretary Bessent has met with the Chinese, came out of the last meeting suggesting that there was significant progress. Why the change?
That's exactly right, Brett. For the past 6 months, just to go back a little bit, 6 months ago, China took an action like this with respect to rare earth magnets. And over the past 6 months, we've been quite successful in securing the regular flow of those magnets to China. We've managed to have a fragile truce with China with respect to tariffs, where we continue to have high tariffs on China, but we're able to talk to them and have great communication. This action that recently happened, I mean, listen, China, negotiating with China is not like playing patty cake. On the one hand, they have a meeting with President Trump coming up, or they had one coming up. And on the other hand, they truly seek to acquire domination over global technology supply chains. This is a move clearly that they had in their pocket for a long time, and they thought that it was an appropriate time to deploy it before this meeting. And I think they've really miscalculated what they've done here.
There's a lot of, obviously the markets were really spooked by this today. There are a lot of business.
Now, in case you still don't get exactly what's happening here, let me read this to you. It has just been learned that China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade in sending an extremely hostile letter to the world, stating that we're going to, effective November 1st, 2025, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product that they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exception and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. It is absolutely unheard of in international trade and a moral disgrace in dealing with other nations. So what is the bottom line? Well, the president announced that he's going to put a 100% tariff on China over and above any tariff that they currently are paying. Also on November 1st, they will or America will impose export controls on any and all critical software. And so that's the position that the president took. So, of course, what does media do? They start crying about the stock market, which dipped as a result of this announcement. And they decided to bring on an expert who I follow. He's the owner of the Cabosi Letter, which is a newsletter teaching and educating people about the stock market. Phenomenal work, by the way. You guys should follow him on X. But here he is telling CNN exactly what they don't want to hear.
Adam, just the context here, though, because you've been following a lot about this, that the market's been going up and up and up, and maybe going up in the face of some pretty scary economic stuff to come. Nobody knows, but it's been going up, and it's been going up because retail investors, right? Not big, sophisticated investors, retail investors have been buying. So a lot of people have just bought in the past few weeks, right? Those people just got crushed today. That's pretty scary. So what do? I mean, do you think Trump follows through with this and this plunge actually lasts or not?
Yeah, I mean, look, retail inflows have been very strong, as you suggested. But I think this is really the textbook Trump playbook that we saw back in April, where he starts with these very big threats, these things that kind of cause these sharp reactions. And then he slowly starts to use it as a bargaining chip to reach a deal in what he's looking for, or what he views is a sustainable trade deal. And I think we already saw the first hint of that literally an hour ago. After the market had closed, President Trump said he actually hasn't canceled his meeting with China's President Xi yet. So I think this was the first sign of that. I think this weekend we see more happening. And ultimately, I think this dip is going to be bought. I think that the factors that have been driving the market higher for the last few months are incredibly strong. I think earnings growth is strong. AI is strong. The Fed is cutting rates. And we have deregulation in the background. And simultaneously, the market was up almost 40% in 6 months. I think we really just needed a reason to sell off. Today kind of caught everybody off guard. and the market fell sharply. But I don't think this is something that's going to derail us and send us back to the lows. If anything, we're looking to kind of capitalize on this and buy the dip.
Yeah, did you hear that? People are looking to capitalize on this. You see, why do people get so frantic, scared, and believe in Armageddon? It's because they lack understanding. If you actually study the stock market, you wouldn't be panicking right now because you know exactly what's happening. That's just the way that it works. And, you know, CNN, they don't care about any of that. That's not their business. Their business is to continue to undermine President Trump at the moment. So they will try every step of the way to paint this picture as Armageddon, that what the president is doing with tariffs is erratic and dangerous. But the results don't show that. The president's main job, his mandate, is to protect the United States of America, America first. I'm not too sure Democrats believe in that message based on their behavior. But that's my whole opinion on this matter. So we'll see what happens. I think the market will recover. And I don't think it's a time to panic financially. Okay, why don't we hear what you guys have to say about all this in the comments section below, starting with the government shutdown. I asked you, do you support the federal government slashing federal workers in half, particularly the Trump administration? Do you believe in that approach? These workers may not come back. I'd love to get what you guys think about that in the comments section below. And what about Big Tish and all these other people, particularly John Bolton, who's on the verge of receiving an indictment? I think it's well-deserved. He was being investigated by the Biden administration. Do you agree with me on that? Do you agree with me on that? And finally, what do you make of this letter or announcement that the president made about China? Just give me all your thoughts and more in the comments section below. Now, in our next video, this takes us to the California Democrat running for governor and how things continue to get worse for her, as CNN just showed a poll where her campaign has nosedived. I mean, it's atrocious at this point. And we have more updates to show you as well. So if you want to see that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.